welcome back to Two Turtles Homestead. We're glad you're here. This is going to be the next installment in our small batch canning series. Today I'm going to be making Jim's Aunt Linda's sweet zucchini relish. It is a fantastic recipe. It's easy to make, and it's a great way to use up all those oversized zucchinis that seem to get away from us in the garden every year. So come on, let's get busy. Let's make some sweet zucchini relish and add to the pantry. All right, we're going to start by shredding up our zucchini. We're going to need 5 cups of coarsely ground zucchini, and Aunt Linda said to our granny, as we like to call her, said to make sure that you grate it as you would coleslaw. So that's what I'm doing. I'm going to grate up my zucchinis. I have this one, and the good thing about this recipe is you can use zucchini that has gotten too big. So I'm going to get this grated up, and we'll go from there. Alright, the only other thing we're going to do to this today is I'm going to give it a stir. Kind of mix both of my zucchinis up together. And I probably should have taken the seeds out of the first one and completely forgot, but I'm not going to ruin this whole batch just to go back and take out some seeds. So then we're going to take about a little less than about half of a quarter cup of salt, and we're just going to sprinkle salt over all the top of it. And then we're gonna put a lid on this and let it sit in the refrigerator overnight, and this salt is going to pull out all the moisture out of this zucchini. And so then we'll be back in the morning. We will take this out and we will pour off all the liquid that has gathered, and then we'll rinse it, and we'll rinse out all of the salt, and then we'll continue on with the recipe. See you tomorrow. Here is our zucchini that's been sitting overnight. And then, so we're just gonna get it all rinsed off and get the salt out of it, and get it canned up. All right, first thing we're gonna do is just rinse it in cold water. Just gonna rinse all this salt out. So we're just gonna drown it in the cold water. Give it a little stir around. Let that soak while I get my strainer. I am using my old Tupperware strainer. I have had this thing for probably 30 years. Got a little crack in it, but I still love it. Well, if I could find another one, like you can't find good Tupperware anymore. All right, so we're just gonna pour all of this in here. I'd use my metal strainer, but I think the holes are too big. Awesome. Then we're just gonna let this drain, and then we're just gonna keep rinsing it multiple times just to get all of the all the salt out of it. And again, I should have seeded the first zucchini, so I'm gonna try to pick out as many seeds that I see floating around. So definitely, if you do this, seed the zucchinis, because zucchini seeds are pretty big. Okay, I think that's going to be pretty good. So I'm going to just let that continue to drain off while I get the rest of my ingredients together. All right, so I had these orange and yellow and green bell peppers in the freezer frozen. So I'm gonna use those. But here's where you would cut up 1 red, 1 green bell peppers.
And actually, the recipe calls for grated onions with this, so I think I'm just going. I also have frozen purple onions, so I'm going to just try to grate. I'm just going to try to use the food processor and just get them all finely chopped up in there. I try to make everything as easy as I can during my busy day. Still pretty frozen, so I'm just trying to break them apart just as much as I can. I think that might actually be enough because we don't like a lot of onion anyway. So, all right, we'll see how this goes. All right, I'm just going to pulse it just to see, just so we don't get a big pile of mush. I think that's going to be pretty good consistency right there. All right, so now we're going to get this on with the zucchini and the rest of the spices. Okay, the rest of our ingredients will be 1 1/3 cup of apple cider vinegar, a 1/2 teaspoon of turmeric, and be careful with the turmeric because that stuff stains, a 1/2 teaspoon of celery seed, a 1/2 tablespoon of cornstarch, and a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. And the recipe calls for 2 cups of sugar, but in my opinion, that makes it too sweet for me, so I'm going to use 1.5 cups of sugar. All right, we're just going to combine everything together and get it going. This is our 5 cups of grated zucchini. This is our chopped and grated bell peppers and onions. Again, it's an equivalent to 1 of each, or whatever your preference is. All right, give that a quick mix up. Not that it really matters. All right, I'm going in with my sugar, my apple cider vinegar. I'm going to give that a good little stir. Get that, and then I can get my heat going. Just going to put it on a medium heat for right now. Get it heated up, and then I'll turn it down to low. All right, in with my pepper, the celery seeds, the turmeric. Turmeric's going to give it such a pretty color too. And then I'm going to put in my cornstarch. And I am assuming that the cornstarch is what makes it gives it kind of a syrupy consistency when it's finished. All right. Get all of that mixed in well together. All right, we'll just let that come to a simmer, and then we'll simmer it on the stove for about 20 minutes. Okay, so it's now come up to a boil, and we're going to turn the heat down and just to reduce some of the liquids a little bit. So I'm going to give it a good stir. Look at the color of that. It's looking so pretty. Our relish has been boiling for 25 minutes or so, so it's looking pretty good. It is ready to jar up, so I'm going to get the jars out of the canner and get them going. So I'm just going to fill these jars to a 1/2 inch headspace. And you can use 1/2 pints for this, but I like it so much that I just go ahead and do it in pint jars, because once you open it, it'll last for a pretty good while. And like I said, I use this in everything from hot dogs to you can I put it in chicken salad. It's really, really good in chicken salad. And whatever else you use. And it is a sweet relish, so whatever else you use sweet relish for. I'm gonna take my debubbler and just kind of run that around the jars and get any air out of there. And then same processing with all canning. I'm going to clean off the lids, but clean off the rims before I put my lids on. But it's particularly important when you're doing sweet. That's with all the sugar in here, is because you don't want anything sticky on the rims to prevent the jars from sealing. So I run that around. Oh, I hope that y'all will try this because it is so yummy. All right, get my handy dandy jar of white vinegar. And like I said, this was 2 oversized zucchinis that grew in the garden. And so rather than just giving them to the chickens or throwing them away, this is a good option to use up those zucchinis that you wouldn't necessarily fry or roast or bake or whatever. So the recipe actually made 2.5 pints. And so one thing I wanted to mention about the Instant Pot on the canning, as with any other canner, you want to always make sure that you are fully loading it for any canning session. So what you can do, if you don't have 4 pints or 4 jars of whatever you're canning, you can add something else in there. And so I'm also doing a batch of green beans today, but green beans are pressure canned. These are water bath canned, which means it's going to be a lower setting on the Instant Pot. So I don't have anything else readily available to water bath can. So what I'm going to do is just can a jar of water. And so once it's done, I can open it up and pour out the water, or I can just put it in my pantry and have sort of a purified water for emergency use. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get me a jar of water jarred up and get in here and we'll get going. All right, I'm going in with my 4 additional cups of water. And then here is my jar of water that I'm going to put down in there. All right, and then we will put the lid on. Okay, and we're going to select canning, low pressure. Don't want it to keep warm. We do want it to naturally vent. And then these process for 15 to 20 minutes, or 10 to 15 minutes. So I'm going to do 15 just because I'm a little bit over the 1,000-foot elevation. So we're going to hit start and we're going to let that go. We'll be back when it's finished. Okay, the canner just kicked off. So let's see how our relish turned out. Oh, it's looking pretty good. Beautiful color. And our little half pint. Oh, yeah. And our jar of water. Okay, we will let that sit, let the jars seal, and then we'll get them all cleaned up and come back and view our final product. All right, so I wanted to get a good final look at our sweet zucchini relish. As you can see, it turned out pretty good. We got the jars all nice and cleaned up and labeled up and ready to go in the pantry. But it turned out really pretty, and I was able to also put up 3 more jars of green beans. So there's a look at that. It's just that easy. Hey, so I hope you'll give small batch canning a try, and don't get so overwhelmed thinking that you have to have big garden hauls to put up any food. So as you can see, I've got about maybe 45 jars over the last 3.5 weeks to go up in my pantry. So you can do it too. So hey, get out there and grow your own groceries and give this small batch canning a try. We'll see you on the next one.